Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, members, officers, and members of the public joining us today. Welcome to this meeting of the Climate and Environment Advisory Committee. My name is Councillor Dr. Lisa Redrup, Chair of the committee, and to my left is Councillor James Rickson, who is the Vice Chair of this committee. We're going to start with apologies for absence. Habs, are there any apologies today?
No apologies for absence today.
Great, thank you very much. Next is declarations of interest. Do any members have interest to declare in relation to any item of business on this agenda? Okay, thank you. If any interest subsequently becomes apparent later in the meeting, please would you raise it at that point. Next, we have minutes of the previous meeting, which is agenda item 4. These are the minutes for the meeting that was held on the 18th of November 2025. Does anyone have any comments they'd like to make on those minutes, please? Okay. Can I take the approval of the minutes held on the 18th of November 2025 by affirmation, please, members? Agreed? Brilliant. Thank you very much. The minutes of the meeting are agreed as a correct record. Okay, on to item 5, which is public questions. We have received one question from Ms. Alderwick, who I believe is online. Oh, great, I can see you. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you for sending us your question and for joining us today. The process is that you have up to 3 minutes to present your question. And then if you'd like, you can have another minute for a supplementary question. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, so just before I ask my question, can I just clarify that I'm speaking as a resident and not as a parish councillor?
Oh, of course. Great, thank you.
Thank you. So what has triggered my interest was reading in your council magazine about the decision taken in regard to food waste, and more specifically, the decision to provide plastic bags. I believe that this council has declared a climate emergency, as this seems to be the opposite of the aims to reduce carbon footprint and to sequester carbon. If I only have one question, I would like to know if there has been a calculation in the difference in emissions between using an anaerobic digester and the incinerator option, as opposed to the current method of composting for food waste, and if there is a report, where can I find it? And my follow-up question is, why was it decided to use plastic bags in the new food waste rollout, as this seems to be that the council is providing plastic bags just to be incinerated? And yeah, that's my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So officers have helped me with a response, which I've changed a little bit, so hopefully it's all okay. But I'll start with I'll give you a little introduction first and then go into the answers, okay? So separate weekly food waste collections are being introduced to comply with the Environment Act 2021. And the main aim of this is to reduce the amount of food waste being sent to landfill, and so reduce methane emissions and their contribution to global warming. So we're the authority that's in charge of the collection, but once we've collected it, the disposal of the food waste is the responsibility of the Cambridgeshire County Council. And so it's their decision to use the anaerobic digestion, but we'd like to just give you some information about the benefits of anaerobic digestion, which is how it will be disposed of. So anaerobic digestion extracts greater overall value from the food waste, as it delivers both renewable energy via a biogas that can be used to generate electricity and a nutrient-rich digestate that can be used as a fertilizer. In comparison, our food waste that is collected with garden waste goes through a process called in-vessel composting, which only produces compost. So the difference is that you get some energy from using the anaerobic digestion process. Also, anaerobic digestion is the process that's recommended by both the Waste and Resource Action Programme, which you may have heard of as WRAP, and the UK government, which identifies it as a preferred environmentally sound solution. With the mandatory introduction of food waste collection, there's going to be increased capacity to deal with that they need increased capacity to deal with the collected food waste. And so anaerobic digestion facilities are positioned by government policy as the key technology to meet that growing capacity, which is another of the advantages over the in-vessel composting. So I hope that answers your questions on the anaerobic digestion route, but then you've also asked about why Greater Cambridge Shared Waste is providing plastic bin liners. So this is to try and help people get a good start with the process of separating their food waste. And the bin liners will only last for about 6 months. So it's just to help people get started with collecting their food waste. And the reason for this is to try and get the greatest wider environmental benefits from capturing as much food waste as possible. So the idea is that by capturing more food waste, that will overcome the environmental problem of using the bin liners themselves. So we can only capture as much food waste as possible if residents are willing and able to separate their food waste for the new collections. And evidence from councils already running food waste collection shows that providing liners, especially ones that are easy for residents to use, significantly increases participation. The plastic liners are cost-effective and readily available, helping make the service simple, clean and convenient. However, if preferred, residents are welcome to use compostable liners, paper liners, or no liner at all. Okay, so, yeah, sorry, that was quite long and complicated. Would it be helpful if I asked DEM Services to send you a written version of that?
Yes, it was. Thank you very much for your response. I was very interested with the choice of the anaerobic digester, and it seems that the gases are counted as a clean resource, but the burning of it, you're still burning methane and creating carbon dioxide.
Right, well,
But thank you very much for your response. So I'm guessing there's not been a report into it, and it's the county council that I need to talk to rather than the district council.
yes, we weren't aware of a report, so that's why we didn't mention one. And I don't know if the county council will be able to help you, but yes, you could go that way if you'd like. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. So then we're going on to item 6, I hope, which is the Climate and Nature Strategy 2026 to 2030. We have Ellie here today to present this item. Can I please hand over to you?
Thank you, Chair. I will just share some slides. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. So we're really pleased to be presenting to you the final post-consultation version of the Climate and Nature Strategy, which is now complete after several months of extensive engagement, both internally and externally. We carried out a 5-week public consultation over the autumn, running a joint survey with Cambridge City Council to capture the views of residents in Greater Cambridge. And we acknowledge that these residents of Greater Cambridge are key stakeholders across both council areas. We ran a series of in-person events and also various digital promotion, and that was via different channels, including social media posts, newsletters, etc. And in total, we received 102 responses from residents in South Cambridgeshire, as well as organisations and businesses, and a further 381 responses on the Cambridge City engagement platform. In total, just around about 500 responses for the whole consultation across both council areas, and so that was from stakeholders across both council areas. And so we worked with the consultancy Bioregional, who undertook an independent review of that raw consultation data and produced a report with a detailed analysis of that feedback. And so looking at the results, they showed that over 85% of participants were concerned about the impacts of climate change, and nearly 60% of them responded that they were already experiencing experiencing impacts as a result of climate change. In particular, these were the effects of extreme heat and water scarcity, as well as storms and flooding. And then there was also some responses around biodiversity loss as well. And so these themes were also raised as anticipated impacts of climate change over the next 5 years. So the report produced by Bioregional was used to identify some areas within the strategy and accompanying action plan, which could be revised to strengthen the strategy and to incorporate the feedback which was received where it was appropriate and where it strengthened areas of the strategy. And as a result, some key actions were amended and some new actions as well were added. And there were some areas that were raised which were, these were kind of already addressed in the strategy, so we kind of emphasised these for clarity that they were being addressed in the strategy. Here you can see a few examples of where we made some amendments as a result of the feedback which we received. And so one of them, the first of those, is that some responses stated that climate action depends on broad community support and action, but residents lack resources often and time and capacity to act. And so some of the responses indicated that this was compounded by the need to tackle inequalities, and so that was kind of seen as a fundamental challenge. And so in acknowledgement of this, we added a key strategic challenge around barriers to community engagement and inequalities, recognising this. Air quality was raised as a key issue, and but we kind of recognised that specific actions to address air quality, they are covered within the Greater Cambridge Air Quality Strategy. So we wanted to avoid duplication of reporting on this matter. So within that, we kind of recognise that the climate and nature strategy includes actions to support the delivery of this. So we kind of emphasise that the fact that air quality is addressed within that Greater Cambridge Air Quality Strategy as a whole. So it doesn't sort of, those specific actions don't sit within this strategy, but referring to where they are more explicitly within the Greater Cambridge Air Quality Strategy. And then there were a few requests for more emphasis on protecting native species and biodiversity in green spaces, as well as working with farmers to promote sustainable agriculture. And so we added a key strategic opportunity around nature-based solutions and things like that. And new actions were added into the accompanying action plan around supporting local farmers to prioritise nature-based solutions as well. And then a significant change was made to the key themes as a result of both internal and external feedback around adaptation and resilience, which we had previously mentioned throughout the strategy, but recognised that it kind of needed its own theme to recognise the importance of it, and sort of so that it was recognised with a vision and key targets and principles as well, to make sure that that was recognised in relation to the delivery of the council's services, as well as the wider district. So there's a particular emphasis on resilience, and that is as well in relation to the district's more vulnerable residents and communities. And then finally, alongside the new strategy, we've updated the environmental policy summary document in line with the new climate and nature strategy. So that is a document which kind of summarises our principles which cover how we influence our supply chain and partners and customers. And that helps us, and also refers to how we comply with relevant environmental legislation, policy and guidance. And so that is a document which kind of supports our commercial services in recognising how they align with environmental legislation. So that's a summary of the changes made as a result of the consultation, and now I'd like to open for any questions.
Great, thank you very much, Ellie. Councillor Peter Sanford, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation, Ellie. With respect to agriculture, the biggest landowner of farms in the county is actually the county council. Are you aligned with them on whatever they're doing in terms of hopefully innovative solutions for nature-based farming?
I think we recognise the need to work in the future over the strategy time period with the county council more closely in supporting farmers on that agenda as a key landowner. So that's definitely something which we're going to be looking at, and also with local government reorganisation in mind, acknowledging that need to do so.
Okay. Councillor Martin Khan, please.
On the, I don't know whether this is not from the actual consultation, but it's the kind of thing that I notice still as a problem. Is on page 114 of the report, the outline of energy and retrofit. You're looking at the support for tenanted houses to bring them up to standard, and you talk about raising properties which are EPC of F or below, because that's the requirement at present to become up to E. But by 2030, we're supposed to bring it up to C. And if anybody's going to do anything about it, they're going to have to do it before they arrive at 2030, which is within the period of the proposed strategy. Would it not be more sensible to have D or below in that? Are you precluded from doing anything on that, or would that be would it not be more sensible now at this stage to try and think to the future in terms of trying to prepare landlords to improve their properties? I just wondered whether that had been considered or raised at all in the consultations.
That wasn't considered at the time. It's something which we could look at in the future. Obviously, as well, we kind of recognise that there are some changes being made as a result of the Warm Homes Plan, which sort of relate to some of the actions in this strategy, and some of those relate to landlords and the minimum energy efficiency standards. So that's something we can look into in the future, but wasn't considered in this strategy.
Councillor Paul Bearpark, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the doubling nature strategy, which again, I guess has become much better defined now in terms of it now refers to increased land managed for nature from 7 to 14% by 2050. But previously, I think doubling nature, the goal was 2030. So obviously it's much better defined, but the timescale's much longer. I just wondered, and I didn't see anything, but maybe I missed it, whether we have kind of interim targets for this, because obviously 2050 is not that far off, but it is some way off. And obviously what we don't want to be doing, what we want to be doing is kind of seeing how we are progressing towards that target over time, rather than expecting that it's going to suddenly be achieved in the last kind of 5 years or something. Is there anything kind of that's planned to be kind of monitoring that and setting out interim targets is my question.
I think a key thing that we want to be mindful of, and were mindful of in the writing of this strategy, especially the nature element, is the LNRS, and that sort of we were kind of writing it at the same time as that was being consulted on. And so I think we're quite aware that sort of there may be things which come out of within the implementation of the LNRS that support that direction and support that, you know, setting of targets and things like that. So and milestones and that kind of direction of certain projects and things like that. So I think we will be looking to align with that in sort of looking at those sort of interim targets, but yeah, recognising that that's kind of it's not in there at the moment, but yeah, acknowledging that we need to look at that's quite a long time frame, so we need to look at that as well.
Thank you, Ellie. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to raise on this? I know it's the second time we've seen it, so is there anything else anyone would like to raise? We've let you off lightly today. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the huge amount of work that's gone into this, both the drafting and the consultation, because we've talked about all the steps that you went through to make sure we got lots of comments, and I personally could see the benefits that we'd receive from that consultation and the improvements that it had on what was already good, but is now even better. So thank you very much. So members, the recommendation in our report is that the Climate and Environment Advisory Committee notes the report and gives comment on the outcomes of the public consultation and the post-consultation draft of the Climate and Nature Strategy, notes and gives comment on the updated environmental policy summary document, and recommends that the lead Cabinet member for Environment support the post-consultation strategy to proceed to Cabinet. So I've got it says, can we agree this recommendation by affirmation, but also asks if I have a proposer and a seconder. So do we need those today? So are we willing to support this? And are you willing to propose, Councillor Sanford? Thank you. Is anyone willing to second? Thank you, Councillor Toomey Hawkins. So we've got the proposer and seconder. Can we agree this by affirmation, please? Agreed. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So then item 7 is the draft recap interim resources and waste strategy 2026 to 2031. And we have Rebecca Weymouth-Wood here today to present this item to us.
Thank you, Chair. This paper is to present the new proposed Cambridgeshire and Peterborough waste strategy that will see us through the next 5 years to 2031. And it replaces the previous document that expired in 2022. The strategy has been out for consultation, and that closed yesterday, 26th of January, and that was run by the County Council on behalf of all partners, including us. Work to prepare the strategy document began back in December 2024, and so it all predates all of the onset of LGR, obviously, but crucially it will allow the setting of direction and priorities for waste, and the continuation of sort of business as usual for the partnership work during that period of the period of change that we're expecting. All of the Greater Cambridge Waste officers and the Cabinet member have been involved in the development and working alongside all the other councils and the consultants who brought together the document. So I guess the reason we're doing it is the strategy sets out, obviously strategic direction for all of the Recap Waste Partnership in the medium term, and it tries to acknowledge areas of consensus for future waste infrastructure projects, including obviously also waste collection, treatment and disposal, along with acknowledging how key things like behaviour change are important, and how we're going to support and work within the waste hierarchy. And we hope in taking that approach, it will then lead the way for longer term work on infrastructure, collection and disposal arrangements, in a broader term. So the key principles of waste prevention, recycling and composting are still, very much key of this document, but obviously the whole landscape for waste policy has changed a lot in the last few years. So the strategy is actually quite timely because it aligns with the DEFRA's ambition under the Environment Act 2021 and all the simpler recycling requirements. The strategy that you see is made up of 2 parts. There is the main strategy body, which gives the context of and why, and also sets out the themes. But then there's also a supporting action plan and a tracker, which will allow us and the rest of the partners to actually deliver the strategy and follow it. And just to summarise the 8 themes, so they are how we are going to meet the needs of the waste hierarchy and the circular economy, effective waste communications, how we're addressing legislation, contracts and procurement, waste management infrastructure, climate change and emissions reduction, what our commercial opportunities and areas for innovation might be, how we're going to look at capturing data, monitoring and recording and reporting better between us. And also there's a section covering just the application of the strategy and its governance. The document is a live document. It will be reviewed annually against changes to legislation or any other policy changes that we implement. And obviously that will mean that the strategy and the action plan will be updated and put on our website so the public can see progress. So I guess what we're doing is obviously seeking your feedback, and then it will be the report will be going to Cabinet, and we'll be seeking approval of Cabinet on the draft document as it stands. And because at the minute we don't know all the outcomes of the consultation, we're still waiting the collated outcome of that. What we are asking for is for delegation of approval to Councillor Warren Green for the final version to then be signed off once we have that final version. So that's it.
Great. Thank you very much. Was it this one where we had a small update to the report to make sure that it referred to South Cambs rather than Cambridge City? Was that correct?
Yes, I think it might be in this one, sorry.
So yes, members, just to be aware that wherever it recommends that it goes to Cambridge City or to an executive councillor, it is to our lead member for environment, and it is for South Cambs for today. So does anyone have any comments or questions they'd like to ask, please? Oh, well, Councillor Dr. Martin Khan, please.
Because my colleague Ariel Khan has been, Councillor Ariel Khan has been, had concerns, it's had trumpeting with underground collection store bins, which have created problems. I don't know whether this is a problem with linkage with planning systems, but frequently the requirement is that planning requires that a plan be put forward that is acceptable, and it's difficult to enforce then if the actual system installed is not very satisfactory. I just wanted to be sure, I haven't read through the whole thing, so I may not have picked it up, that I think it is something in the policy you need to think about, is whether that planning conditions dealing with the provision of suitable and acceptable bin systems should require, include a requirement to actually implement the proposal so that it can be adequately enforced. Because if you're only requiring a plan to be put forward, it's difficult to enforce it if it's not actually adopted. I don't know whether something dealing with that could actually, to ensure that something dealing with that is put in the strategy so that you know that there is adequately enforceable conditions put in new systems. The experience of Southampton Trumpet indicates that that can be a problem, and quite a significant problem there. It's lasted for 5 years.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Khan. I'm not sure, does that cover this document that we're looking at, or is that the next one, do we think?
Oh, it kind of touches on both.
It's
It's more probably the recap design guide, but the strategy one of the things that the strategy does is it brings up to date our approach to and our general principles about supporting more underground options if it's suitable. But completely, you're absolutely right about, we've also taken the opportunity, I think, to be a bit more pedantic, if you like, about the steps that are taken when those new developments come about in terms of pinning down to make sure they are properly commissioned. Yeah, working.
Great, thank you very much. Did that answer your question okay, Councillor Khan? Brilliant. Is there anything anyone else would like to raise? No? I guess the only question I had was about communications and making sure that residents are confident in our processes and what happens. I mean, I hope it's not widespread, and I don't know if it is, but I know of people who worry, who've seen sort of documentaries about blue bin waste from other authorities being sent abroad and, bad things happening. And I know on our website it says that all of ours stays in this country, but I don't know how we can make sure people are confident of that sort of thing, and if there are any comms, or if we're even aware of it being a problem in this area. But I guess, thank you.
Yes, so I think that is exactly the sort of thing that we would cover, and actually that's the ideal kind of messaging that we can get out locally and also across the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. I don't think we've had any concerns of that nature recently, but they never really go away, and I think it is, I think all of the our communication officers and our counterparts would agree that actually it's the kind of message we need to keep drip feeding, because it's quite easy for people's confidence to be eroded, I think.
Yeah. Councillor Bear Park.
Just a minor thing to comment on page 182. So in terms of table 4, weekly food waste collections, it's currently saying that South Cambs doesn't collect its food waste, but we have started today, I believe. Difficult to keep these documents entirely up to the minute.
Yes, do we know if it's going to be updated?
Well, we have actually, you're not the only one to point that out. It's just the difference of when it was written compared to now. So I think, yeah, there are things like that that just need to be reflected in the final version. So yes, we'll take that on board.
If there's no one else, I had a question about the action plan. I just wondered if that was anything that could be publicly shared, and also how it relates to our business plan and our actions, if sort of what we've already planned is aligned to it, or if it means we need to find extra budget for new projects.
Yeah, good question. So it's not been publicly shared at the minute. I'm not sure if the intention is it will be on our websites or not. I can check about that. It can be circulated though, if you'd like to see it. We can circulate here. So I think, myself and other officers obviously approved the action plan, and so yes, they do align. One of the things we're doing is to ensure that they did align with our own corporate objectives and priorities, and also the recap partnership as a whole has a standalone budget, so there is money from there that typically we would also draw on to help deliver any joint projects. So we can't always exclusively fund it entirely through that joint budget. Sometimes we have to chip in extra, but largely we try and fund any joint initiatives via our designated budget.
Oh, that's great, thank you. I would be interested to see it if that's possible, so thank you very much, and thank you for those interesting additions. If there's no one else who wants to say anything, then we'll move on to the recommendation. So it's recommended that the draft recap interim resources and waste strategy 2026 to 2031 is approved, and that we grant delegation of approval to the lead cabinet member for environment for the final post-consultation version of recap interim resources and waste strategy 2026 to 2031. So members, the recommendations, and it says, members, the recommendations presented here before you are for Cabinet to approve. So I guess it's going to go to Cabinet after this. So as members of SEAC, are we happy for Cabinet to approve the recommendations? Can we agree this by recommendation, and do I have a proposer and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Bear Park, and thank you, Councillor Martin Khan. Can we agree this by affirmation, please? My apologies. Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're on to the recap design guide policy update, and again it's Rebecca to present this item, please.
I think actually my colleague Michelle, who's online, if that's okay, is going to present it.
Of course, please go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, thank you. I'll just give you a little bit of background really. So it's the revised recap design guide. It's currently a supplementary planning document that was adopted by Cambridge County Council in February 2012, and subsequently was also adopted by all the recap partner authorities, which includes South Cambridgeshire and Cambridge City. Since that time, subsequent growth within the Greater Cambridgeshire has resulted in the guide becoming quite outdated and not in line with current development practices and operational requirements. Therefore, we've got together with the other members of RECAP And given the scale of growth and the involving nature of the waste management services, a comprehensive review of the guide was undertaken by the council operational officers who've provided their expertise in putting together a new guide. The objective was to produce a modern, user-friendly guide, an SPD that clearly sets out practical design standards for developers. The revised guide aims to support the creation and robust waste strategies for new developments and ensure consistency across our district. The revised process has also been an opportunity to incorporate emerging legislation and policy changes, including the introduction of simpler recycling requirements and other national waste reforms. The guide is currently out for consultation. Well, actually, correction to that now, it's finished consultation yesterday on the 26th of January. All comments will be collated together and then a meeting will be held by recap members to review these on whether any changes need to be made to the document further. The expected outcomes, the updated design guide is intended to deliver a clear, practical design guidance for developers, improve consistency in waste management across new developments as well throughout the whole of the recap partners, enhance compliance with current and forthcoming legislation, have a more efficient, safe and effective waste collection for residents across our district and other recap members. It also provides guidance on the underground storage systems. So we're just putting it towards you today just to review this. We will be going to Cabinet as with the waste strategy on the 3rd for approval. We're hoping for your support with the approval of the draft guide as it stands at the moment, and then we will be looking for delegated approval from our lead councillor, Councillor Warren Green. I think that's it. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Got Councillor Dr. Martin Khan has a question for you.
Let's come back to the underground bins again. This is a guide for the developer, so it's advice to developers on what they should provide.
Yes.
So it doesn't actually say what you should do in terms of conditions. I come back to this situation, how do we ensure that adequate conditions are applied when new developments take place so that it can be enforced if they're not applied, if they're not conformed to?
Yeah, so from our perspective for obviously Greater Cambridgeshire, we currently have a consultation process with the planning department. Any future applications come through to myself at the moment for assessment and advice on underground systems. We also operate a pre-app advice system now as well, where we meet with the planners at early stages and developers to discuss any proposals they've got and ensure that they're implemented successfully and efficiently.
So conditions now would have a provision so that if it's not
yeah,
then you can take
we have a provision in place now that we do discuss these projects in full detail and make sure a really good analysis is done to ensure that they're suitable for where they're going to be sited.
But we have experience in the past that they say they'll do one thing and then do something different. Are the conditions sufficient to ensure that then that has to be corrected if it's not satisfactory?
I'd like to think so. As I say, we now have a close working relationship with the planning department, so we liaise really closely with them. We hold regular workshops on a fortnightly basis to discuss any projects. We've partaken in all pre-app design team meetings now, and also quite often we're undertaking site visits as well at the early stages to ensure the installation is carried out effectively and efficiently.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could we have Councillor Dr. Toomey Hawkins next, please?
Thank you. Just to sort of emphasise the fact that, these things are, you've got planning conditions, you've got implement them through Section 106 and building regs. Hence the liaison with our planning department, but at the end of the day, yes, they'll get a planning permission, and then further down the line, they might go, we're going to make a bit of a change, which is why sometimes what is permitted is slightly different to what is planned. But of course, at the end of the day, the conditions need to be discharged
Yes. Yeah.
Enforceable.
and complied with. It's compliance now.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Bear-Park, please.
So just as I understand it, this design guide is being brought forward as a supplementary planning document, but I think under the National Infrastructure Act, SPDs are being abolished. So, but I think existing ones and those that are approved by, the date may be wrong, June the 30th will continue. But I just wondered, is that information correct? Am I right about that? And therefore, what will happen? Will this come into force or will be approved before June the 30th, do you think? If that's
This,
correct?
I don't know if Rebecca may correct me, this is definitely looking to be in force and in place prior to that date. As far as the up and coming changes with SPDs, I'm not aware of them, but I can obviously look into that and feed back to you on that one. I can discuss that with my colleagues within planning.
No, thank you. I mean, I guess that is not yet law. It's not the national. The Infrastructure Act is not law, but I think it was what was being proposed. So that could change.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor James Rickson next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Michelle. I just wanted to just sort of say thanks for producing this, and it's a great bit of work. It's really helpful to have an SPD like this when designing, designing buildings and neighbourhoods that's clear, that's up to date, which is always refreshing.
Yeah.
But it's very well annotated with with positives and highlighting potential negatives to avoid. And I also note the developer minimum standard checklist at the back as well, along with a glossary, which I think would be extremely helpful. So yeah, just to say thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I can't see anyone else wanting to raise anything, so we'll go to the recommendation, which is that the draft recap design guide is approved and grant delegation of approval to the lead cabinet member for environment for the final post-consultation version of recap design guide. Similar to the previous agenda item, the recommendation presented here before you are for cabinet to approve, and so the question is, as members of SEAC, are we happy for cabinet to approve the recommendations? Could I ask for a proposer and a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Dr. Hawkins. Thank you, Councillor Rickson. So are we happy to agree this by affirmation? Agreed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. So item 9 is a food waste update. If there's much to update on, it's just begun today. So Rebecca, is there anything you can tell us, please?
So yes, thank you. So so collections have begun today, finally, and so far so good. It's all gone well. So obviously what we are focusing on at the moment are the locations within Wave 1, which for South Cambs are Waterbeach, Bassingbourn, Duxford, Hawkston, and then parts of North Cambridge. So when I left the office about an hour and a half ago, they were still out collecting, but it had all gone well. So obviously we spent the last few weeks obviously delivering the containers to everybody and providing them with the right instructions and communications. And that includes quite bespoke arrangements at flats as well, some of which you may have a small block that's got 4 blocks that might share a caddy, and you might have a bigger block which might have a 140 bin, which is a bit bigger in a bin store. So it's a bit more nuanced, but that has been explained to the residents. So they've had their communications. We've been updating stuff on the website. It's now all appearing on the collection calendar. So if you're in Wave 1 and you put in your bin dates, you should see your caddy collections coming up. If you're not in Wave 1, you shouldn't be able to see that, but you can look up when you're coming. So that's all been lined up because we wanted to make it, try and make it crystal clear to residents that when they might be due to get it. So it's going well so far, basically, is what I can tell you. And the one update, probably since we last spoke about it, is that we are having to review when the next wave is happening. So the next wave, wave 2, was going to be at the beginning of April, and we've had to push that back to the end of April due to lorry delivery. So it's still within April, and residents have been told April at the minute. So that's just shifted a few weeks. So yeah, that's the latest. But has anyone got any questions on it here? Anything you're not sure about?
Thank you very much, Rebecca. We have Councillor Natalie Warren-Green with a question.
I just want to make a comment, actually. I want to say thanks to the team for getting this launched today. We had quite a storm this morning. Lots of wind, lots of rain, and new caddies, much smaller caddies, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the team got on, and especially in these adverse weathers, because I think you probably couldn't get a lot worse than this unless there was a snowstorm. So well done, and also I think communication has been really good, and I'd like to just encourage everybody to keep up that communication, because if that's so important to the residents, to just keep up that communication, make sure the letters go out, people are really clear on that timing, especially since we've got that slight delay in wave 2. But yeah, on the whole, I think it's been a very interesting journey, and this is something that DEFRA introduced, and we have gone live on the date we proposed to, and that's testament to the hard work, real teamwork across the waste team. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Dr. Toomey Hawkins, please.
Sorry, thank you. I think my first question was, how do we find out what waste food collection dates are going to be, or which phase we're going to be in? But there's something on your website going, type something in something somewhere. Okay, sorry.
Yes, so
I was just catching up.
Yeah. So one of the nice functions, I think, about our new Greater Cambridge Waste website, in fact, it's probably on the main website as well, but is the localization function. So if you put in if you go to the homepage and put in your postcode, it will tell you all sorts of information that's happening in your area. So we've tied the food waste information to that. So it will tell you your normal bin dates, but it should also tell you when you're due for your food waste collection and other things like when litter bins might be emptied as well.
Yeah, sorry, I've just typed it. There's a...
Did it show up for you?
That's fine.
All right, mine does. It does show me for me, but hopefully we can get Councillor Hawkins sorted out soon. Did you have another question? You said it was your first question.
Maybe I'm doing something wrong. It's okay. I'll find it.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. And yes, thank you for getting this all done, and I'm looking forward to it coming to my area too. Okay, item 10, we're getting there, is the Carbon Literacy Training Progress Update, which we're hearing from Ellie Haynes about.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. So this report provides an update on our programme of carbon literacy training. So just for those of you who don't know, carbon literacy is an awareness of the carbon costs and impacts of everyday activities and the ability and motivation to reduce emissions on an individual, organisational and community scale. And so our aim really through this programme is to help everyone in the council, whether it be members, whether it be colleagues, to understand what they can do in their role to help to tackle climate change and protect and enhance nature. So for someone to become certified as carbon literate, they need to complete a day's worth of training and a short certification form before they can become certified by the Carbon Literacy Project. And so we run these sessions as 2 half-day sessions. Usually, sometimes we do day sessions, but generally the overall in the general programme, we run these as two half-day sessions. And in the past, as well as more general sessions, we've run specific sessions for management, people in management and leadership roles. We've trained members, and also we've delivered training specifically for the commercial waste team upon request, and we're always happy to for teams to request specific training for their teams as well. So far we've trained 154 individuals, and 65 of those have become certified. We recognise that we have a need to increase the number of those who are certified out of those who have undertaken the training, and so we've looked at how we can implement more support for this, and that has included extending the amount of time in the sessions that people spend on their certification forms, so they're not doing this outside of the training. And we also have offered one-to-one support outside of the sessions as well for those who need a bit of help in completing their pledge forms. So really looked at what we can do to help people in completing that. And so we have an ambition to become a silver certified carbon literate organisation, and this helps us to demonstrate strong leadership in climate action, and also sort of highlight how we're implementing a low carbon culture across the organisation. 24. In 2025, there were some changes to the silver certification, and so instead of 15% of the workforce needing to become certified, this changed to 30%, so a slightly higher bar for that. And at present we've got 7%, so we're well underway with that, but we've got a bit further to go now in looking at how we can reach that silver certification. So yeah, we're looking at how we can roll this out further as well, and we'll be sort of over the next few, sort of planning our next round of training, we'll be looking at how we can target this as more strategically. So, for example, making sure that the whole of the corporate management team are fully trained, so that they can then cascade this down to their teams and things like that, and obviously sort of looking at that picture of influence as well, and making sure that yeah, we target it in a more strategic way. But I think those are the key highlights. But yeah, welcome any questions on that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Ellie. Councillor Sanford, please.
Thank you, Chair. I did the carbon literacy training certification last year. I was surprised how much I learned. It's definitely it's a day's commitment, but it's definitely worthwhile. I'd encourage my fellow members, particularly the ones sitting on this committee, if you haven't gone through the course, go and knock on Ellie's door immediately after this meeting, please.
Thank you, Councillor Sanford. Oh, Councillor Rickson, please.
Thanks very much for that report, Ellie. It was just a question about what would we expect from staff members, or what we're hoping to achieve with staff members becoming carbon literate, aside from the potential climate anxiety. Now that they're aware of the giant challenge ahead of us, like, you know, have we got any good examples of things that the officers have achieved sort of following this? And yeah, just wanted a bit more background.
Thanks. Yeah, we do have some nice examples of where colleagues have undertaken their pledges, and it's resulted in quite a good outcome. So one colleague, their pledge was to do a swish, which is sort of a clothes swap, and they did that in South Cambs Hall with members of staff, and that's quite an interesting thing to do, because you can weigh all the clothes and then work out what has been diverted from landfill in doing that, and you can kind of attribute a carbon cost to that. So that's quite a nice measurable outcome. I'd have to remind myself of how much was diverted from landfill, but yeah, that was a good one. And then also there was one colleague pledged to look at an electric bus feasibility study, which they undertook, and undertook that study, and yeah, had that report done. So that's, yeah, there are some really good examples. And I'd also say that the training also looks at the co-benefits of climate action more widely, so not just looking at the carbon impacts, but also how can we support communities or health impacts or economic impacts, so making sure where they are pledging actions that it, or sort of undertaking work in their everyday roles, help supporting them to understand how they can maximise those wider benefits of any action they're taking.
Thank you. Back to Councillor Sanford, please.
Thank you. Just for interest, my pledge was to replace my phone when it came up end of contract with a sustainable phone. So I've now got a fair phone, which is guaranteed for 6 years, gets all the Android updates, it just doesn't die, the battery doesn't die, you can take that out, replace it. So that was my pledge.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, that's brilliant to hear about all this training you've been doing and the outcome and positive outcomes from it already. And I hope we get to hear some more about what comes out from it. Thank you. So item 11 is the home. Oh no, it says. Oh, I don't think we've got any. Have we got any recommendations from that? Just to note the report. So I think we're okay to just say we've noted it and move on. Sorry. So item 11 is the home upgrade grant, or 2, also known as HUG 2 end of project report. We've got Madeline Foster here to present to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. The Home Upgrade Grant 2, referred to as HUG 2, was a UK government's Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, also known as DESNZ, scheme aimed at providing low-income private sector households with home energy efficiency improvements to address fuel poverty across the UK, improve resident health and well-being, and aid in reaching national carbon reduction targets. This scheme ran from April 2023 to the end of March 2025, so it was a 2-year scheme. In Cambridgeshire, HUG 2 was bid for and delivered by the Cambridgeshire Energy Retrofit Partnership, which is still an ongoing partnership, but at the time was comprised of the 5 district councils in Cambridgeshire, including South Cambridgeshire, and also including Cambridgeshire County Council. After the end of HUG 2, the partnership did expand to include Peterborough City Council as well. The lead authority on the HUG 2 project was Cambridge City Council. Please also be aware that this partnership operates under the brand name Action on Energy. So under the framework developed by the partnership, contractors were procured to carry out the scheme. The grant provided eligible households with a fabric first approach, meaning that the home is well insulated or becomes well insulated through the scheme before clean heat measures are applied, so that the householder can benefit from reduced energy bills. Measures were decided through in-person contractor assessments, and improvements were bespoke to the property to ensure they provided value for money and the most advantageous option. These proposed measures were approved by the householder, the lead authority, and DESNZ. Applications underwent rigorous checks, and households had to meet a set of eligibility criteria. The main routes to eligibility were: a household has a collective annual gross income of £36,000 or less, or lives in an indices of multiple deprivation area 1 to 3, or is in receipt of means-tested benefits, has an EPC of D or below, and is not heated by mains gas. For eligible properties, the scheme mandated that their energy performance improved by a certain amount depending on their starting energy performance certificate, EPC. So please do see the report for those details. The communications plan proved effective in increasing the uptake of the retrofit grant funding. Additionally, communications were active under the Action on Energy brand to provide a recognizable and consistent face to the project. And I'm pleased to say that the partnership was the 5th highest performing in the country. Cambridge City Council was also able to secure funding from the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority, the CPCA, for the partnership to continue the work delivered under HUG 2 towards the end of that scheme, which was titled the Domestic Energy Efficiency and Low Carbon Heat, DEELCH scheme. This was delivered under the same conditions as the HUG 2 scheme. So, in terms of outcomes, in South Cambridgeshire, works on 77 properties were completed, comprising of 143 individual measures. And under the DEELCH program, a further 11 South Cambridgeshire homes received 18 measures. Please do see the Cambridgeshire-wide property numbers if you're interested in the report as well. Across Cambridgeshire, it is estimated that these projects saved a total of 2,431.7 tons of carbon dioxide per year, amounting to an estimated total lifetime savings of 62,632 tons of carbon dioxide per year. In terms of direct feedback, some residents expressed relief at being able to apply for a grant which increased comfort and warmth in the home. Social value outcomes from HUG 2 included contractors supporting community groups, and economic impacts included an estimated investment of £2.55 million in the local supply chain and an estimated investment of £3 million in supply chain skills growth. Overall, the HUG 2 project was delivered on time and to budget. Measures were delivered to a PAS 2035 quality standard, and it should say PAS 2035 rather than 2025 in the report, so apologies for that. Communication with contractors enabled any issues which arose to be resolved. Partnership working and the structure of the framework in place allowed all aspects of the project to be completed as necessary. The strong pipeline of properties towards the end of the project allowed the partnership to deliver works on additional properties at the end of the project as agreed with DESNZ, and ultimately apply for the additional funding I mentioned to the CPCA to upgrade further properties. And just in terms of ongoing current work, building on the success of this previous delivery, the Cambridgeshire Energy Retrofit Partnership bid for the next phase of retrofit funding from DESNZ and secured delivery of the Warm Homes Local Grant Scheme, which commenced in April 2025. This scheme is delivering retrofit solutions for low-income residents. It's expected that Warm Homes Local Grant will be delivered over a 3-year program, with the first year closing in March this year. A key difference in this current scheme compared to HUG 2 is that now both on and off gas properties are included. We are ensuring we are leveraging our strong delivery track record established in HUG 2 to expand the scale of retrofit and further assist fuel-poor households in the lower EPC bands. While delivering Warm Homes Local Grant, we will continue to integrate clean heat measures with energy efficiency measures for maximum impact and deliver strong value for money and measurable carbon savings with a whole house approach. Thank you, and please do let me know if you have any questions, and Ellie's also available to answer questions if needed.
Thank you very much. It's really good to hear that it went so well, you managed to do extra properties, so thank you for letting us know, and we do look forward to hearing about how the Warm Homes goes as well. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask? Oh, I was going to say, it shows how thorough your report was. Councillor Dr. Toomey Hawkins.
I'm just curious. Thank you for this. Obviously, it's a work in progress. So I guess the first question is, how many of our properties now are upgraded? And what's the... I guess when we do the upgrade, there's a series of works that is done. Which is the most that's been done? Which type of upgrade? If that makes sense.
So under HUG 2, we had 77 properties with 143 measures, and in the follow-up interim sort of program, it was 11 with 18 measures. I don't have to hand, I don't know if you do, Ellie, the information on the most popular measure right now, but we can get that for you.
Yeah, we'd be able to get that, but probably we don't have it to hand just now. But yeah, and then on the Warm Homes Local Grant, I'm not sure what the most recent update is on how many properties we've done so far in South Cambs. yeah, we'd have to get back to you on that, but happy to do so.
Thanks. It'll be useful to know, because obviously that then tells us what types of property we actually have, what's in the portfolio, how old they are.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dr. Martin Khan.
So I didn't catch the details of how the warm home scheme has expanded the eligibility. What sort of which additional residents are brought into the scheme through the warm home scheme?
So it's now on gas properties and off gas properties. And so that kind of broadens the eligibility. In South Cambridgeshire specifically, there's a slightly reduced eligibility in terms of income because whereas before under HUG 2 there was the eligibility under the index of multiple deprivation. 1 to 3 that's changed slightly, so we don't have any areas now in South Cambs which are eligible under that criteria. So kind of slightly reduced in that sense, but obviously it does include on and off gas properties now.
And if I can add as well, there have been some changes around the landlord-tenant side of this as well. So it used to be under HUG 2 that for eligible landlords and tenants, the landlord would be contributing 1/3 of the total cost. But now for the first property in a landlord's portfolio, so long as the tenant is eligible, the first property is fully funded, and then the follow-up properties in the portfolio have a 50% contribution from the landlord, so that changes the dynamics there as well.
Sorry, I didn't catch the percentage that the landlord was before.
So under HUG 2, it was a 1/3 for a 1/3 contribution, and now it's fully funded for the first property in the portfolio and 50% for any subsequent properties.
Okay, thank you. Councillor James Rickson.
Try again. Thanks very much for the report, Madeline. A question about, so I guess, and this is excellent work, but the work that's done to identify residents, is that done in partnership or in tandem with it? Is it the Cambridgeshire Local Assistance Scheme? So what the work that other departments are doing, but with Lift software, so of identifying people on low income, and is that, I guess, are we working together to help residents in that way?
Yeah, so we are looking, sort of our kind of next step of looking at how we can let people know that they might be eligible would be working with the officers working on the lift scheme, and yeah, like collaborating with them to try and identify people who might be eligible. But yeah, that's kind of our next phase to make sure, and it's kind of part of that thing of making sure that people know that they're eligible for these kinds of schemes.
And if I can just add on the other side of that, we also do Action on Energy sort of wide activities, and people can also apply on the central government website, and so they have messaging and communications out, and they can come to us from there, and we can also work with our procured contractors to do that sort of activity. So that's just in addition to what you asked. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I mean, I think just sort of well done. It feels like, I know, in the grand scheme of things, sort of, 77 properties doesn't sound a huge amount in terms of the number that we've got to tackle sort of locally and nationally, but it is vastly, I recognise it's vastly complicated to deliver a single retrofit scheme, not only with the fact that the complexities of measures, but the complexities of how the funding works from property to property, managing tenants, managing their expectations, managing the supply chain, again going back to the funding, again managing the funding, because that may well change. I mean, I think as we can see from this is the Home Upgrade Grant 2 that was only started 3 years ago and now has changed and developed into something else. So just I think a well done for managing to achieve that many properties, and look forward to seeing many more being completed as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Paul Bearpark, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I suppose there is a bit of potential for terminology confusion, I think, because obviously the government's just now announced its Warm Homes £15 billion Warm Homes Plan, and we've got a Warm Homes local plan or local grant, I think. So we'll just kind of have to watch out for that. But obviously we'll have to see how the government gets on with this, because central government's track record is not that great on this stuff. Previous government's Green Homes grant scheme, which was a bit of a disaster, I think, so we'll have to see how that goes. I think sometimes these things are better delivered locally than they are centrally.
Yeah, seems like a good point to draw, a good thing to draw to our attention. I think that's everyone who's wanted to say something. So this is recommended that the committee notes this report. I think we've done that, so we'll move on to our next item, which is item 12, the social housing decarbonisation retrofit. For this we have Eddie Spicer online to present to us.
Yep. Hiya. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, just I wish I could be as eloquent as Madeline was, but probably won't be. This is where we are in total on our retrofit projects. We've got currently 2 running partly in tandem. There's a bit of an overlap. The similar grant funding to the HUG2, as previously mentioned, sort of funded by DENS. But what we have is we've got the original wave 2.1 of the SHDF funding, which we received 1.7 million and then co-funded towards that. That was to deliver, initially we was 238 properties, and out of those we've managed to successfully deliver 237 because one of the tenants decided they wanted to pull out and didn't want the work done on their property. So all of the actual delivery on site of those is completed now, but we're in the middle of the administration elements and the lodgements and so on, and dealing with the numerous amounts of paperwork that comes with it. We're aiming to close that out administratively by May 26th, so that should all be complete by then. The detail within the report only focuses on what's actually been confirmed through lodgement, so what the final outcome of the post-works EPC data and so on. So when you look at the actual data within the report, it's the numbers are a lot lower than we anticipated to be on the final closure after May. What we've also had is the warm homes, basically the wave 3 of the government funding for decarbonisation, where we were awarded 8.2 million in funding, and we are match funding that with just shy of 12 million, so we've got an overall project of 19 million. That will be due to deliver just over 600 properties in various different measures as we go through the next 4 years, at least, with that to achieve it. Alongside that, we've also got some properties which are currently below band C, but not included within the funding projects. They was either because the original funding was de-scoped slightly from what we originally bid for when they finally released the numbers. So we've got some still outstanding, but we've got quite a number which will be picked up and brought up to band C for a normal planned works. Plus we're putting together a potential batch of properties for a planned next round of funding, which we're hoping to take advantage of in a year or so. All links in obviously with the latest warm homes plan that's been released this week, I haven't gone into that in too much detail, so I can't really comment on how that will fit further into the plan, but I can expand on that for the next round of meetings. Overall, the values and what we've achieved is really good, considering the challenges we've had through it. We've had during the period of the wave 2.1, we had a major change in the methodology for calculating EPC ratings when it changed from 9.94 up to SAT 10, which gave us basically a net decline in our EPC ratings, because the way that it's calculated and the additional requirements that they put within that. That's also going to have a knock-on effect over the next wave of works that we do, because there's a major reform on EPCs due in probably 18 months, somewhere like that, which will change it again. So this kind of your sort of ballpark targets will continue to change, even from what we've planned to do originally. As you'll see in the report, the focus was on sort of a fabric first approach into what we was delivering. We started with a sort of cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, double glazing, and then you got some supplementary measures of ventilation, heating controls, and some properties having solar PV added to them. The figures that it shows for carbon saving, etc., on there is only based on 43 homes, because that's the total number we've had completed administratively at the moment. So we've got those final numbers. So we're anticipating on the closure it will be substantial. So it'll be a nice report to see. There is a lot of work going on at the moment to work towards the wave 3. Obviously, the whole process is quite complex. We're having every property assessed and then designed bespoke to that property, so that you get the best increase that we can get from the property on the measures that we are installing. There is also part of the funding is the low carbon heat fund, which is allowing us to upgrade on-grid gas properties to air source heat pumps, and most of those will be fully funded as well. So that's a good positive move as part of this as well. The overall project, both wave 2.1 and wave 3, has been in collaboration with our main repairs contractor, Mears, and they helped us along with the bid process, the data analysis, all of the assessment elements, and so as we've gone through. So it's been a real a sort of a true collaboration and partnership as we've gone through the project, and it's worked out really well. We've learned a lot through the last couple of years on wave 2.1, and we're taking that learning and knowledge into wave 3 for efficiencies and things like that. So it's been a really good good project to be involved in. The upshot of it is within the wave 2.1, we are being put forward for nomination for the Net Zero 2026 awards, which are due later this year. So hopefully we're up against some stiff competition in there when it does actually get submitted as a nomination. But we keep our fingers crossed that we may do well on that one. And it's been, I'll say, it's been a really good project overall. That's probably about it, really, from what I can sort of give you verbally. The rest of it is sort of in detail in the report. And if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Councillor Dr. Toomey Hawkins, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that update. Actually, I think you've kind of answered part of the question I had before about the types of upgrade that was done on the properties. I see, of course, you mentioned the sort of the fabric first approach, which is cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, and was it double glazing?
Yep.
So effectively, we've got 117. I'm just surprised that we had that many properties that needed double glazing or didn't have double glazing. Was it replacement of old or replacement one for one, double glaze broken for double glaze new?
It was where a property needed replacements. It wasn't just fitting them for the sake of fitting them. There was, if they was of an age where they needed replacements, and the sort of the older style double glazed obviously has a lower U value. We, as an organisation, we'd moved from double glazing to triple glazing because of the way the U values were. With the newer technology, the U values were almost identical to triple glazing on the new the new tech double glazing. So on this project we was with double glazing rather than triple because the U values were just as good.
Okay, no, that explains it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
What do we still have any properties that are solid wall construction?
Well, yeah, we've still got the same number of solid walls, but
So what are we doing with those? How are we going to upgrade those?
Yeah, I mean, as you're probably aware, for the last, well, probably 10, 12 years, South Cambs has been proactive in carrying out external wall insulation and things like that, and the majority of the properties have already been done prior to these projects coming around with EWI. There wasn't any on this round of the funding, but on the wave 3 there are a couple more external wall insulation properties that are in line to be done, and that will, in effect, that will only leave very few left, probably 4 or 5 properties left that we haven't been able to do EWI for various planning constraints, etc., where we've done other measures like internal wall insulation, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. And one final question from me. I know the way EPC is calculated is going to be changed further down the line. How will that affect the EPC ratings that are currently valid for their 10-year period?
Yeah,
will there be a conversion from one to the other or not?
No, there's been a major reform earlier on this year on EPCs, and they're now only valid for 5 years. So we've instigated a bit of a project on our sort of standard business as usual to upgrade all of the EPCs. And what they say is that if it's a current EPC which is valid for sort of 5 years, it stands as is. But after that, it has to be under the new methodology. We've got all of the data in our energy system, which relates to at the moment the majority of it is under SAT 9.94. There is a conversion which can be done, but the SAT 10 requires a lot of additional data to make the overall calculation. But if you do the comparison currently, then there is a distinct net loss in EPC ratings with the data that we hold. And obviously we've got the second reform of EPC coming, sort of like I say, in the next 18 months, which will change it yet again. So we're kind of on a constant struggle. The main changes that they're sort of looking at is obviously the energy performance of appliances and heating and so on. And the way that the calculations are being made there is there's more emphasis to make electric heating a higher rated option than gas heating, whereas previously because of the way that the old technology of electrical heating was working, it was less efficient. So there's a bit of sort of recalculation and rejigging of numbers, but also the technology has increased so much over recent times. So it's had to try and keep pace with that.
Thank you for that. It's just we're going to be having EPCs, like 3 different types of EPCs working in parallel.
Yeah, that's correct. It does make things difficult to work on. I mean, even through Wave 2.1, when we done the initial assessments, it was on the old EPC 9.94. The postworks EPCs are now using the SAP 10 methodology, so it's not comparing apples and apples as you would imagine, but we've got to go with targets that we're set, and as C is the rating, we've got to sort of try and preempt what the changes may have an effect on us and try and sort of stay one step ahead.
Well, thank you. No, it's interesting. Thank you for explaining that, and I'm sorry for the headaches it must be causing. Councillor James Rickson next, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks for that presentation, Eddie. And then, yeah, I think the same sort of congratulations to Maddie, to you, in terms of it's clearly, I think you just re-described it, an extremely complicated and complex job that's being undertaken here, so really well done. I've got a number of questions, so I'll try and go through them quickly, but I guess bear that in mind as you answer them as well. So I guess the first one is about flexibility and funding. The report mentions co-funding, and really just if you've got any general comments about how the social housing decarbonisation funding is being, are we able to deliver it? Is it quite rigid, or like you mentioned, for example, one of the households dropped off and decided not to go ahead. What if other housing, as you progress through the year or the years, it becomes apparent that work needs to be done there? Can this funding be matched up and implemented with other funding when you're operating with MERS, for example?
That's a very interesting question, and it's one that's given me many sleepless nights and pain over the last 2 years. No, they are incredibly strict on where we can or can't use the funding, and also in the timescales that we must use the funding as well. Within sort of they've got a certain amount's got to be spent within particular financial years. And moving into the wave 3, the funding side of it is even stricter, because they've broken it down into phases. So you've got to spend the right amount within the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and so on. So it means that what we need to do operationally is be far more sort of strict in what we're doing operationally, and make sure that we are delivering at pace to what we have given us the baseline targets. The scope is very, very tight. I mean, the reason why we had to drop a property was that there wasn't time left within the project where within the funding scope to be able to put another property in, do all the assessments, do all the designs, and get it delivered and finalised by the target date for delivery, which was 31st of March. Sorry, the 31st of November last year for the final delivery. So it's because there wasn't the time, we had to de-scope it by one property to be able to fit in with the criteria that was required.
Oh, okay, that's really clear. Thanks for that. And then so I've got wave 3 written down here now. It's being stricter. Question about, I guess those two tied together. So I'll stick on the delivery side of things, which is, I guess, the risk management and ventilation. You mentioned actually quite a couple of times about fabric first approach, that this that the SHDF funding is leading, but I actually note that actually the most amount of measures that are recorded is ventilation based. So that's quite interesting, and that's nice to see ventilation coming into that fabric first aspect of it. But I guess, so on ventilation, have we come across in this process any unintended consequences of any of the measures? Has that been looked at? I know we hear from, you know, in other areas and older schemes where ventilation is not being considered, but I guess are there any unintended consequences, and has there been any gaps in the measures that are being delivered that we've seen so far?
No, I know what you refer to in the there's been an issue on some of the Eco4 funded projects where they've put EWI or other elements on a property, but they've concentrated on particular elements like external wall insulation and not looked at the property holistically. Whereas when we've done these assessments and the designs per property, we've looked at the whole property holistically. If we're changing the windows, we're doing the insulation, we're making the property more airtight. Therefore, we need to add in ventilation so that we avoid the pitfalls of creating sort of damp and mold issues and so on that's been shown in some of these other projects. I mean, if we go back sort of a decade when we started putting in the EWI, it was highlighted then that we had started to have a couple of properties that were starting to sweat effectively because we'd put the EWI on, but not upgraded the ventilation suitably. So we've gone back after the work's been done and added extra ventilation, which is one of the lessons we've learned over the last decade when we've come to do these projects here. So it's we've been quite ahead of the curve, if you like, insofar as the retrofitting works because we started so long ago.
No, that's excellent to hear. The fact that lessons learned and you've been able to go back and rectify or pick up where mistakes, not necessarily mistakes, but unintended consequences could occur. So no, that's brilliant. I guess I'll wrap my last question. Let's make it a last question. I guess it's about monitoring, and then examples and sort of communicating the good work that's being done. So is there ongoing monitoring of properties? You know, are we looking at that and gathering the data and to see how they're performing? And are we able to do that? And if not, is there a way that we could do that? And I guess the next one would be examples of houses that South Cambs have retrofitted. I think that would be great to see. You know, even in the context of this meeting and understanding the huge amount of work that's happening, so something visual or something a bit more tangible, but particularly for residents to go, have a tour around. Is that a possibility?
There is potential for that. As far as sort of visiting properties to see sort of see the measures, I haven't given that any consideration. As far as sort of providing examples of the properties and what we've done and so on, when after May, when we work on the full closure report for the project, there will be examples of properties, etc., included within that. But if there was an appetite for some members to or some tenants as well to actually visit some properties that's had work done, then we could probably arrange that on some of our empty properties in the gap where they're empty before they get relet. So it's probably not overly appropriate to take them for a walk around tenanted properties without express permissions from the tenants and so on.
I think that's fairly reasonable. Yeah, I mean the void properties or the untenanted properties would be great. And I think it would be really good, sort of for tenant education and even tenants who might have signed up for this, to see what is possible and it might be, you know, encouraging, you know, I guess, for that, because this is not it's not an instant deliverable. So I think it'll be really helpful. And again, it's just a really good way of communicating all of the, you know, all of the work that is being done by the team. So
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. We've got Councillor Dr. Jimmy Hawkins.
Thank you. Quick comeback on that one. With the ventilation, are you doing mechanical ventilation, or is it trickle vents on the windows and doors, or what sorts of ventilation are you applying?
It depends on the property and what the overall design of the property is and so on, and what is most appropriate. It could be just straightforward mechanical ventilation, sort of through wall ventilation. It could be positive input ventilation, heat recovery. Really depends on the property and what is most suitable and designed into the construction type and size, etc., and layout.
Okay, Councillor Bunty Waters, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow on from your questioning, I just wondered if anything will go in the South Cambs magazine, because it's quite interesting. It will be interesting for people to know what can be done, I would think.
Yeah, we had some coverage of it when we initially won the funding, and when we got the second wave of funding as well. Again, as we go towards the project closure, we'll probably be doing an article on that as to show sort of what we achieved on the first round of funding and so on.
Think you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Eddie. We have it down as to note the report, so I think we've done that in some detail. And thank you for providing all the extra details to members. That's greatly appreciated.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. So on to item 13, which is the forward plan and any other business. Ellie, could you please give us an update on the next meeting and the forward plan?
Yes, thank you. The next meeting in March will provide an update on the Friends Reservoir project from Anglian Water. There will be an update on the MRF contract. Also be bringing a report on the final version of the retrofit guide, and then also the final outcomes of the Net Zero Villages project, which was funded by the CPCA.
Great, thank you very much. This brings us to the end of the meeting. The next meeting of SEAC is to be held on Tuesday, the 17th of March, 2026. I'd just like to thank everyone for all the reports and all the hard work, and for everyone for looking through them and for all the questions and discussion. Thank you all. Bye-bye.